I think we're in a unique period in history. We have a fair amount of momentum on gay and lesbian issues. The public opinion with regards to marriage, employment non-discrimination, all have switched in our favor in the last decade or so.
We have been spending at the highest rate in our history, and that's just because we see, now is our time. We're really seeing that we have the ability to influence a large number of places that can help build momentum for a national engagement and a national dialogue. New York State was a decades-long effort, and to see the people in the galleries watching that debate and knowing that they could in fact soon be able to ask the person they love to marry them legally in New York State was it was so moving and so long overdue.
One of the things that happened when we passed marriage in New York was we had help from Republicans. And if you've been in the movement for a long time, for a lot of people that felt incredibly strange.
It's just an example of how we can assume that people don't want to be allies to us. Once you address the fears or misconceptions someone has, then it makes the policy change possible. For a state like Massachusetts, long a leader in LGBT equality, to say, we have to add this to our law, we have to be inclusive of protections for our transgender brother and sisters, it was just really, really momentous. The conversation and dialogue around what gender identity expression means, what the barriers to folks are, was really, really important. And Massachusetts, along with 3 other states, really showed the country that we can make progress.
Colorado is important partially because I live here. It's also interesting because it's a purple state. It's a more rural state, and the problems we've had have typically been in more rural states. So there's a lot of things that make it a really interesting case study, and the fact that we're here means we have deep relationships with all of the community.
In this annual report, we talk about our school's culture initiative, which is really taking advantage of an anti-bullying law and say, what, let's make that law real in the classroom. We were able to engage a huge group of stakeholders, school administrators, teachers, parents. We're learning a lot about how you actually implement a law and make a classroom safe. And our hope is that we can share that learning beyond Colorado to other states.
If you look at the way our federal government is working right now, we have complete partisan gridlock in Congress, more so than any time probably in the last 50 years. But there's a lot of things that can be done by agencies in terms of how money is allocated for health issues, how money is allocated for aging issues. It's going to be all little small victories, but hopefully they're little victories that actually impact people's daily lives.
A great example of progress this last year, which we feature in this annual report, is SAGE getting the contract for the first ever National LGBT Senior Resource Center. And what that means is that an organization like SAGE can actually work with all these local area agencies to get them to be more culturally competent about how you serve LGBT seniors. But what's so great is to have the imprimatur of the federal government to say LGBT seniors are part of our community and they will be treated respectfully and equally. To have the leading voices on an issue, non-gay voices, say we are in solidarity with our lesbian and gay, bisexual and transgender brothers and sisters is just a bellwether. And one great example in this annual report is this report about families that, while it had certainly the Movement Advancement Project and our wonderful national organization, Family Equality Council, on it, it also had the Center for American Progress, a leading progressive organization in Washington, D.C., as well as the National Association of Social Workers and the Child Welfare League, all being part of the issuance of this report.
For years and years and years, we talked about having alliances with organizations, and it just never went anywhere. That's changed. It's now all of a sudden, if you're LGBT or T, it's fine to be that in a lot of places in the country. And so that means it's easier for us to work with those organizations. And the other thing that we've realized is that we have power too, and that not only can they give something to us, but we can give something back.
Being an ally means that you have to practice reciprocity. You can't just say, stand up for me when I need you. You also will say, and I'll stand up for you when you need me. And whether that's issues around immigration, healthcare access, voting rights. I mean, there's many, many broader issues out there that impact huge numbers of LGBT people. And we're beginning to think about, what does that mean then when you say, this is my agenda for change?
We have a moral responsibility to try to make the society we live in more fair and more truthful. And anyone who isn't supporting those kinds of things isn't really living up to the kind of morals they should have as an American, the kinds of culture we would like to have, the kind of culture that will move us forward instead of pulling us back.
In this annual report, you will see a whole group of organizations who really followed a person in an organization that was denigrating LGBT people in a very, very serious way. And that same organization was also characterizing other minorities in ways that were completely unacceptable. So part of what we do is try to find and expose people who attack not just LGBT people, but women, people of color, and other segments of society. Once you do that, you sort of undermine their credibility.
I started the Out Giving Conference for arguably a selfish reason, that I really didn't know any other donors. And what that meant is I didn't know any funding partners, and I don't think I conceptualized it that way at the time. But by meeting other donors, I got different perspectives on our movement, different perspectives on the way people think, but ultimately it gave the donors a sense of community.
What you will see in this annual report is 8 individual donors who've stepped up in the most incredible way on a whole variety of issues. And they're not giving just their money, they're giving their thinking, their time, their expertise. And I think you will be very inspired to think about, what could you do to add to this movement? What's the next step you could take to give more, to participate more, to lead more in your community?